Okay, so I just got out of seeing Jurassic World Rebirth, and this is going to be my quick out of the theatre reaction. I just released my social media review, and here's what I said. Jurassic World Rebirth is the best since the original Jurassic Park. This film, it captures the charm and the fun of watching the original Jurassic Park as a kid, sitting in front of your TV or watching it on the big screen and just being in awe when you saw dinosaurs for the first time. There's a few scenes, one scene in particular that takes you directly back to childhood, and it's a very warm feeling to be present and living in 2025 in an era where I can say that this is the best since the original. Like, they've finally cracked the code on what makes this franchise great, because I'll be honest, I haven't liked the last 4 or 5 years of Jurassic World films, since they haven't just cracked the formula of what made Steven Spielberg's film great. But Rebirth, this film manages to crack it. I'm just going to list off a few positives with this movie, so let's just go ahead and jump right into that. The performances all across the board. We have Scarlett Johansson. She's no surprise to the action genre, and she delivers in spades. She has range as an actress. She's great in almost anything she will do. And she's once again proves herself in here as being an action icon. We have Mahershala Ali as a side role in here, and he's great. And really just all of our performance and side characters, all of those are really great in this movie. And one thing that the Jurassic franchise has not been able to crack since the original, that they have just forgotten, is characters. Rebirth gets that correct. I've been waiting so long to say that, because I never thought we would see a Jurassic film where the characters are great. We followed 2 groups of characters. Here we have a family, and we have our experienced characters who are sent to the island on a mission. I think the first act is all set up, and there's a good amount of characterization, given to both parties here, to make you care, especially the family. To me, the family was the highlight. I really like seeing their back and forth, just seeing the acceptance on the father's side in particular. But I thought all of the characters were likable to some extent, and I thought they all had good arcs throughout the film that are set up very early on. And I think the way they decided to close out these characters towards the end, I was a big fan of. I was rooting for these characters all the way through, and of course that made for some really thrilling and tension-filled sequences for me, which this might have some of the franchise's highlight sequences, as is a matter of fact. Like, there's one scene in the first probably 45 minutes of the movie that takes place on the sea that we have briefly seen in the trailer that is a highlight to me. I would say that the trailers do show a lot of the big moments in the movie. I would say it does go into spoiler territory. But yeah, there's a scene in the first 45 minutes that takes place on the sea that I thought was really thrilling. I thought it was shot really well. And then there's a scene that takes place underwater, that I thought was really, really tense. I think all of the dinosaurs, all the CGI and the detailing, on them look really good. And we have a new addition added to the Jurassic franchise with the D-Rex in this, and this film, it brings back, that's one thing I want to say, it brings back the horror. Holy shit, where has this been in this franchise? God, we are like 9 movies in now. Where has the horror been? I can't believe it's taken till Rebirth to actually get this correct. But yes, horror was such an important thing of the first movie and the novel, and it's finally brought back in here. The opening sequence of this film definitely brings back those horror vibes. And I think after this movie comes out, I think the D-Rex, which is the new addition, I think is going to be an icon, because I would love to see more of this creature, because it is generally terrifying. It's not in the movie a whole lot, but its scenes are definitely standouts. yeah, and you know, John Williams' score, like, that is just music to my ears, and to hear it done right, you know, I really liked. And yeah, this movie really brought a smile to my face. You know, I had a great time watching this movie. You know, however, the film's not perfect. You know, there is some writing problems. There is some, you know, really clunky dialogue, especially in the second and third act. You know, I think the film handles the emotional aspect, you know, pretty well for the most part. Yeah, I just didn't think, you know, the writing was as strong. I think, you know, there's some decisions in the film, you know, that are questionable, but, you know, I can put them aside, you know, to have a fun time at the movies, and that's exactly what Jurassic World Rebirth is. So the film is in theaters now. Go check it out. You know, have yourselves a blast. You know, go relive Jurassic Park again.